Hello everyone, thank you for coming. So we are going to, okay, my name is Autumn, I'm one of the MCs.
My name is Wood, I'm the other MC for tonight.
And one thing that I'd like to mention is during all the performances, if you could snap if something resonates with you during the poem and keep claps towards the end of the poem, that would be greatly appreciated.
Another thing, we don't mind photography or videos, but we do ask to keep the flash off and to silence all notifications, just so it doesn't distract our poets.
That's a good point.
And now we'll be starting with a group poem.
I don't know what to do. I don't know the future.
I don't know what's up with Skittles.
I don't know where thoughts come from.
I don't know how to make croissants. I don't know how to tell us a red flag. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if what I'm doing is right.
I don't know how to say synonym.
I don't know how to climb a tree. I don't know how to keep macarons from burning.
I don't know how not to cry.
I don't know why I have to wake up at 5:45 in the morning.
I don't know the next line of this poem. I don't know what I don't know.
I caught it. The first poet that we're going to have is Chelsea. Chelsea, 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 Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Brand, and I am from Centennial. I would like to thank Mickey back there. He has been really supportive during our stay at Wellspring and has provided us with so much. My favorite memory of Wellspring was definitely just the community and getting to write poetry with all these wonderful people in the front row. And my poem is called Forgiveness. Forgiveness is a knife I twist into my own skin, blaming someone else for self-inflicted wounds. I continue to pick the scabs despite telling myself it's fine and I can let them go. Turn into scars, forgive and forget. I never say, I forgive you. I wouldn't know how without feeling awkward, weak, wrong. I could never forgive because you're not weak or wrong. You're not even awkward. How do you not hurt when you forgive? How do you forget?
That was so beautiful. I had the honor of listening to that be written in the process. Our next poet is my dear friend, Abby.
Hello, my name's Abby Short and I'm from Logan High School. I would like to thank Arc of Appalachia and Jessica. My poem is called Ode to the Stars. Oh, sorry. My favorite memory at Wellspring was just all the wonderful mentors that were here, just helping me, helping everybody, just emotionally, physically, and with our poems, and all 9 of you in the front. You're just wonderful people. My poem is called Ode to the Stars, and it's a sonnet. Dozens of stars spread throughout the sky, clustered, twinkling lights, in and out of focus, some harder to see, no need to pry. They sit every night waiting for you to notice, against the dark night sky shining brightly. The oldest stars have seen many things as they rest in outer space wisely. I'm sure they know what life has to bring. The stars passed along stories like we do, passed along from neutron star to white dwarf. Why do people not appreciate your value? Your presence wraps around me like a tight-knit scarf. If no one else, the stars pay attention for all those worries and to ease that tension.
Abby, I love you. Right? She's an art major, so she be drawing. Her drawings are so good. They're amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, now our next poet is Wood.
Hi, my name is Wood DeLay. I go to Centennial. I want to thank Lauren, Brian, and Susan for being amazing hosts and for dealing with us so early in the morning and so late at night. My favorite memory was arriving. You can ask my parents, I was sobbing the morning of, I didn't want to go. And then everyone was just so kind and sweet, and they made it feel like my home, away from the suburban area. I'm going to be reading instructions on how to find pine cones. Look into my folds of stories untold. I can't feel bold when I'm weak in your hold. I fall to the ground and sniffed out like a hound, and off I go hellbound. Kick me as you walk and never let me talk, as I roll around like a rock on pavement, never receiving proper payment. I look at you with resentment because you never cared for my treatment. A brown, small pine cone always seemed, a pine cone small and brown, I always seem to drown in piles of leaves taken away by thieves off the ground. My home, my Rome that took me days to build. You laughed at my tears spilled and seemed so thrilled at a life you broke like I was a joke. It fills you with glee. You leave me not just pine cone, but the fallen tree. Thank you. Our next poet is Autumn. I love her.
Okay, now my name is Autumn South. I'm from Northland. Oh, I go to Northland. But I'd like to thank all of our generous donors for contributing to our stay and making all this possible. My favorite memory was probably just like the talks at the dinner table, well, like during lunchtime and at breakfast and at dinner, because the conversations we had there were really fun. It was really fun. So the poem that I'm going to be reading is I don't know if I'm a good friend. I don't know if I'm a good friend. I say a lot of mean things, come off as rude. I promise I love you. That's just how I show I do. I may hit and bite, but it's not out of malice. My teeth are chocked full of fondness and my words ooze spite. But I promise my love bites don't hurt. They'll just stink for a week or two. So I don't know if I'm a good friend. You should let me know, I guess. But if you don't, that's fine, because I say so. And you have any thoughts on my poem? Okay, and our next poet is Esther.
Hello, everybody. My name is Esther, and I'm from Beechcroft High School. I would like to thank Melissa with transportation and everything. Go you. My favorite memory staying at Warm Spring, was I think yesterday. It was we went outside just to take a night walk. And we saw the stars, and it was amazing because you never get to see them in the city because all the pollution and stuff. My poem is named 9:50 p.m. That's when we went outside, but here I go. We stepped outside. I looked up at the stars, staring back in the night sky like a massive chandelier handcrafted by nature. We held hands and I felt the sisterhood we just created on that pathway. We sat and absorbed the view. The stars are never the same as seen on screens. We didn't want this moment to end, but the wind sent that message through the rustling leaves. The clouds had already covered the stars. Frightened was that deer that shook us back home. Thank you. And stuff, it's fine. Our next poet is my Katie, get up here.
Just give me a second, folks. I just
Okay.
Right, okay.
She's calm.
I'll take that for tears.
Good. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Mayali, or Katie, and I am from Telluride High School, which is up in Colorado. I would like to thank Ohio Arts Council for the grant. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys every single year. So, a little bit background real quick. My poem is titled Wasi. Wasi means home in Quechua, and for those who don't know, Quechuan is the native language from a country in South America called Peru. That is where I am from. Okay. Wasi. I need to be alone. It's my fault I am a woman. My fault I am queer. My fault I'm not normal. But it isn't my fault. So why am I stuck in this place that's supposed to be my home? What even is home? Every place I go, I'm only a fraction of who I am. Is home where your family is? The family that raised you, that destroyed you? Is home where friends are? The friends who inspired you, intimidate you? What do you do when the heart is torn? One piece to the little girl who just wanted a hug.
one to hoping for a future, one piece to the friend who moved, one to the friend who died. One piece to the girl who left her hermit shell, one devoured by the brain. Where is my home? Why can't I go home? Please, let me go home.
Giant woman. Yes, okay. Amazing, okay, yes.
Okay, and our next poet is Haley.
Hello, my name is Haley Howdyshell. I go to Logan High School, and I just want to thank Evie and Alan for making all of this possible. Alan came to my school and told me about this, and I signed up for it, and it was just really nice. All right. I know, okay. My favorite memory would probably be having everyone sit around outside and just hearing everyone's amazing ideas and getting so much encouragement about my poems and my writing. All right, I will be reading Power Lines. On every road, across every field, power flows through the long, thin lines, delivering energy at lightning speed, no matter the location or destination. There to keep the lights on, there to keep the air on. In every body, across every wrist, power flows through, wanting only to keep your blood flowing, to heal your wounds, to fulfill your heart's demands. They are so committed to you. They are so loyal to you. Your power lines will never leave or abandon you. Their infinite flow of care will keep you alive.
Haley, that was okay, I guess. Our next poet is my dear friend Anna. She loves fossils and she uses big words and it scares me.
Hello, I'm Anna Stuntz. I go to Roper School in Michigan. Thank you to John D. Lee for helping us with poetry, being awesome, and writing 50 pages on it. Thank you. It's so hard to pick a favorite memory from Wellspring, but I think it's like you guys. You guys are just awesome. You're wonderful. My poem is called Niche. In the falling leaves, everything just clicked. Imperfectly, imperturbably, cosmically logical microcosm of wind and rain and trickle-down law. Never such a diverse, bursting flaw full of conifers, and it smelled so good as peppermint wafted through the air, a molten gold hill and a root-quilted stair. It was warm like hugs and cold like clear blue fall sky, as truth found my soul and left it bare, as conversation lilted like a sunlit cry, words bubbled up like brooks over lives, music, poems, and books, and shy stuck but fell silent through that diverse, bursting path, head first, dive in first, guided by earth of dirt, and all we saw, fall down fire by the raven's caw, hemlock tower around, rock crowned, knocked down, dirt road dust, all mother of limestone, sand grown crust, of gold pots and altars coronated with rust.
Hearing, writing, walking, talking, sun seen, starlit, or stayed in as poetry rose from the rafters, sown with sorrow and hemmed with laughter, snaps like rain after each piece ended, wisdom learned and words carefully rendered, outshone beauty, and in came friendship. Forest trust and tendons tied, I follow crowns falling down the sky, looms old as runes after ghost pipes die. Boom, red gold up high from from silent pines, breathing, dying, up crying from the grass again and again, and then the stars rise. Wet leaves by the highway to the heavens, conversations, connected constellations, past cabins we crept by on a crunching gravel path with smiles to the darkness and wonder to the sky, hands clasped together, universe reflected in our shining eyes, while the stars phased in and out of sight as they will forever. And then, in here, now, and today, even so new and so far away, I found that I was home again.
I love Anna. I love Anna. Like, just seeing her perform so many times, it never gets old. Okay, and our next poet is Taya.
Hi, my name is Taya Holmes. I go to Northland High School. I would like to thank Uche. He's one of our mentors. You know, honestly, he's been kind of insufferable. In all honesty, he has really been amazing. I'm not gonna lie, he's been amazing. My favorite memory from Wellspring this weekend has to be how much creative freedom we've had. This is the most space I've gotten, I feel like. And my poem is called Forgiveness is Overrated. I forgive you. I understand your struggle. Life has treated you unfairly. Your way of coping is by shoving a needle in your arm to escape the pain. It's hard to rid of bad habits, so I forgave you. You gave me a kitchen when I was young, made sure to see me every weekend, embraced me in your arms, and made me feel seen. With all of this love, how could I not forgive you? You were there because my mother made you. She told you, you will be there for your daughter. Yet when she unexpectedly crossed the bridge, you left. You left with your new family. You never called. You told me the phone works both ways. It feels impossible to forgive you. After you had been gone for quite some time, our paths crossed. The only thing you could think to say to a 10-year-old is, so, do you miss your mother? Your ignorance refuses to let me forgive you. I cried for you, wandering in my thoughts on why you don't love me anymore. Why will I never be a good enough daughter for you? Why are you doing this to me? Then I found out that I'm not your kin. My salty tears of sorrow turned to tears of joy. Knowing you were aware of this information made me second guess on whether or not I could forgive you. I am aware now. You let your wife abuse me while you never took my side. You care more about tinfoil than your children, and you don't care enough to change. I am at peace with your absence. I will never acknowledge you as my father again. Never from me will you hear, I forgive you.
I would just like to say I helped create that.
Right, your turn's next. I had the honor of hearing that first draft and it's so good. It's so good. Our last student poet of the night is none other than Lily.
Hello, I'm Lily Miller and I go to Centennial High School. I would like to thank Rosemary, who has been an amazing mentor, and she has been really a great friend to all of us. Anyway. My favorite memory is probably watching Wood and Katie play pool. It's aggressive. Anyways, my poem is called The Night We Owned the Stars. Stars hang in the sky, an inky speckled lake no one could ever reach. But if they belong to anyone, they would belong to us. As we sit on coarse gravel that sticks to our hands, the air stained with the smell of walnuts, the nip of early fall at our noses, and glowworms that wall the path, beams from flashlights, and stifled giggles, and craning necks washed with shine. We own the moments so quiet you can hear the universe twinkle, and the ones struck with noise, strings pulling our constellation tighter, synchronized fingers pointing infinitely upwards. Stars pulse in time to my heartbeat as we orbit among them like satellites. Once we float back down, I hope there will be space dust spilling from our pockets, thick to our fingertips as we carry remnants of the world we created. And though nothing is made to truly have forever, not time or gravel or glowworms, this forest, or even this night, if anything belonged to us, it would be the stars. Thank you.
It's time for the old people.
Hey, Alan. Why don't you bring that microphone
It wouldn't be one of our poetry events if Mickey didn't instruct me about the microphone. I'll act like I did that on purpose. This is our 10th wellspring of imagination. Evie always gets terrified when I say I have an idea. And when I had that idea 10 years ago, she said, oh no. And I called 3 poets and asked them if they were interested. They all said yes, instantly. We've had maybe 100 kids through the years. It's been an amazing experience. But out of all the years, there's never been a group this enthusiastic and that bonded this tightly with each other. It was just beautiful to see it. And we had a lot of laughs and a lot of tears and learned a lot, and it was just a great time. One of the things we talked about in this divided world is how when it seems like there's only 2 choices of something, we could be in the tension between them and give our imagination time to come into play. Something that we don't do enough, and something that we don't realize is the most important resource we have, especially the imaginations of our young people. And my friend David Duncan, an author, had a best friend named Brian Doyle, who was another author, who was fantastic, and both his fiction and his essays. Talked about trees. They were both people who loved the natural world. And Brian died at a young age of a brain tumor. Right about the same time, my friend Greg Kimura, who was a poet, also was the same age and died of a brain tumor. So David and I kind of bonded over that and have become friends in the subsequent years. And this is what he wrote for Brian. This is the introduction to a collection of Brian's essays. And I'd like to share this with you. The bodies of trees are built by their downward hunger for earth and water, and by their upward yearning for light. How wonderful, we agreed, that these paradoxical aims, instead of tearing a tree in two or causing it to die of indecision, cause it to grow tall and strong. And just as wonderful, I wrote to my flown friend, is how during the tree's afterlife, its farmer hunger and yearning transmogrifies into the enduring structural integrity known as wood. Wood as a tree's life history becomes something so solid that we could hold it in our hands. This is not just some lonely cry or mournful eulogy. Right here, in the world where every living thing dies, a fallen tree's integrity remains so literal that if a luthier, that's a guitar maker, string instrument maker, if a luthier adds strings to it, we can turn the departed tree's sun yearning and thirst quenching into the sounds we call live music. And if a seeming lunatic smashes wood's integrity to a pulp and then makes that pulp into paper, our ink could bring to life stories that multitudes can perform like symphonies in the sanctums of their very own depths and heights. That's from David Duncan. I wanted to say that on the table with the green tablecloth there are posters. We call them cargo posters. It's featuring a poem by Greg Kimura, my poet friend that I just referred to. We give these away free. They're all over the world now. Love to give them to schools. The poster has artwork by some woman named Evie Edelman. I think some of you know her. My wonderful wife, most creative person I know. You're her biggest fan? Okay, good. Get in line. And it has Evie's collage that was the cover of Greg's book and Greg's poem. And invite you to take those and take them home with you. There's a URL for a website that has lots of essays and information and how you could get them. My favorite story of the cargo poster is that a woman wrote me from British Columbia that a bottle washed up on her beach and there was the cargo poem inside of it. So I thought that was pretty cool. So, just wanted to finish my little part here with two quotes from poets. One of the neatest things for me is Esther wanted to get up and read a poem. Discussion was so touched by it, and it was by the Ohio poet Mary Oliver. And it was just exciting to me to see somebody discovering something like this for the first time and having it make such a big impact on her. And it does on everyone. And so I'm a little older than these kids, I'm kind of looking closer to the end of the play than they are. And this is what Mary Oliver has to say about that. When it's over, I want to say I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. It's pretty good advice to live. And Wendell Berry, a poet from Appalachia, Kentucky, is a farmer. He's in his 80s now, still farming with mules. He says, now more than ever, you could be generous toward each day that comes, young, to disappear forever, and yet remain unaging in the mind. Every day, you have less reason not to give yourself away. So it's my pleasure now to introduce a former Wellspring student, Jessica Kennedy. Here she comes. The first time I saw her, she was on stage in Columbus with torn up jeans. And I don't want to date myself, but I thought, oh, that poor girl. She can't afford pants.
To answer everyone's question, they did cost the same amount.
Okay. So, we loved her, seeing her. She came to Wellspring. She actually is the only person that came twice to Wellspring because she was so nervous she came a day early and nobody was at the venue. So then she had to come the second time the next day. And the best thing about Jessica now is that she lives in Logan. She moved here. She works in this theater. It's because of her that we have the slideshow, and she's gonna do things with the video, and we just totally love her, even though I'm not at the top of her list. Clyde and Naomi are at the top of the list, like they're at the top of everybody's list, so I don't feel too bad. So she's gonna read a poem, but the poem has to have an introduction because her poem is a reaction to a poem that David Lee, we're related by love, was our poet for a long time, one of our poets, and we're lucky enough to have his son John as one of our poets now, who you'll meet in a few minutes. But Dave read this poem and talked about it. It's a poem by William Stafford, and it was voted on at one point in time by all the poets in the United States as being the most influential poem to them. It's called Traveling Through the Dark. Traveling through the dark, I found a deer dead on the edge of the Wilson River Road. It's usually best to roll them into the canyon. That road is narrow. To swerve might make more dead. By glow of the taillight, I stumbled back of the car and stood by the heap, a doe, a recent killing. She had stiffened already, almost cold. I dragged her off. She was large in the belly. My fingers touching her side brought me the reason. Her side was warm. Her fawn lay there waiting, alive, still, never to be born. Beside that mountain road, I hesitated. The car aimed ahead, its lowered parking lights under the hood purred the steady engine. I stood in the glare of the warm exhaust turning red. Around our group, I could hear the wilderness listen. I thought hard, for us all, my only swerving, then pushed her over the edge into the river.
The problem with writing a response poem is you have to put your poetry next to really good poetry. So there's a little bit of a comparison there.
I am Jess Kennedy. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I'd like to thank everyone who's come out to offer an ear to all of these wonderful ladies who have lots to say, and I hope will continue to have lots to say as they move forward. I was a part of Wellspring in 2016, and it gave me an introduction to a lot of very important mentors in my life, so I feel very thankful to have stumbled across this program when I did. The title of my poem is Abandoned on the Side of the Road. There was something about November 11th. You had been there an entire week prior. Your head was cocked just enough to seem as if you were staring right at me, abandoned on the side of the road. Each night, the reflection of my headlights in your open eyes caught my attention. And each night, I noticed something new. Tonight, your body was blanketed in snow, and I could not see your eyes, and I cried. Winter decided to come early, and the snow was not invited. 2 nights ago, the blood that seeped from your nose reminded me how we are made the same. Reminded me how deer crossing signs are more for you on the side of the road than for the people who forget to look for you on the side of the road because your path came first. I am not sure if anyone else pays attention how long you've been laying there, or how many others came before you forgotten on this stupid stretch of road. Despite it all, I was thankful when I saw you. Thankful the November air was cold to the touch. Thankful I would not have to pass after 9 hours of hot sun and the way dead bodies bake and bloat. In a way, this snow also does not feel right. You are dead, but I am sure you still feel this cold, this weight of an early winter on your tired body. And all I want to do is cover you with a blanket. Thank you.
Is this okay, Nikki?
Yeah, it's always okay.
One of the highlights of Wellspring 2023 is that we have a new poet this year that Rosemary suggested, a friend of hers from the western slope of Colorado, by way of a few other places. I just love this guy, and everybody else do too. If he's in a room, you just have to feel good. So, Buji, please come up and introduce yourself to Logan.
All right, let's see who I'm taller than here. I know someone who I'm not taller than. All right. I could say many thank yous. This is my first year, as Alan mentioned, but my gratitude is overflowing my speech. And I'm so grateful for all of you. It's a cliche that the teacher learns often more than the students, but cliches are cliches because they're rooted in truth. And these past few days heaven and education that a king's ransom could not purchase. Thank you. Thank you. In this, they can't let me do anything seriously. In the spirit of gratitude, I want to open with a land acknowledgement, but this is how I'm going to do it. We hear names like Apache, Navajo, Cherokee, Ute, etc. But I'd like to invoke some names that actually rang these plains and these mountains and the edges of these forests and oceans. This is a salute to the First Nations, from the latest African immigrant to the land that mothered you until a newfangled land government othered you. Let there be peace in the original names. Let us say Dine, Nde, Newe, Winnik, Salish, Hopi, Aashiwi, Pikuni, Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, Tsatsen, Te'ili, Kohokwe, Banaku, Nuuchi, Hinononeno, Tsetsie, Absoluke, Kutunaksa, Kulispe, Shitsupu, Sekanedene, Niitsitapi, Sixikawa. Even more, let's say Nimi, Numa, Sulix, Maya, Bensa, Nahwa, Mefa, Tsotsil, Nimi, Puwaila, Tulehiana, Usabi, Hashita, Enema, Nafo, Raramuri, Winikatel, Tachihuigin, Nyahnu, Ayeukaje, Sajujme, Kitsigwitin, Silokotin. That's Chillicothe, by the way, Silokotin. There can be enough room for our many in this great land, but let us earn that privilege by being willing to stand with indigenous genius where the bald eagle calls, interceding to heed the people who are elders to us all. I say peace, salute to the First Nations. So as I mentioned, I'm an African immigrant born in Nigeria. This book published last year, it's called Nchefu Road. Nchefu is my ancestral language, Igbo, and it means forgetting, misplacement. So what am I forgetting? I mean, what do we all forget? Or maybe you don't. Who remembers being born? Anyone? Remember memories of being born? Do you remember being, of course Wood remembers being born. Who remember being born? I don't remember being born. I'm not as cool as Wood, but I'm a poet. So I have the gift of imagination, right? So this poem is called Canal. First river from which all other rivers. First road from which all other roads. 2:45 a.m., November 2nd. Hey, Rosemary, 1970. The beat swept left as walls wailed away at him, squeezing him head forward of feet. The beat they used to keep two-stroke boom bap on the reg now rolled in with spasm polyrhythmic. No Jonah, that one. He was to be anointed by his host, not by some god who spoke old okey-doke of his host's dumbness. One he knew only from the inside blessed him. She, his universe, made his laws of physics, first made his means to break them, graded him silver surfer towards the wormhole cervix. How did he know that as soon as he choked the one-track amniotic clear of his throat, he would freak the fit out, shrieking in tongues? He somehow sensed how many languages the coming world would hurl his boomerang way. He didn't even know what light was. Yet he would come out loud to those who listen like, yes, Goethe, I am your Apple fanatic. I say, mehr Licht, and let there be. This was foretaste of sight, marbled in sound. This garrulous ward of what he would learn was an Ikorene hospital, St. Joseph's. Wolfing tweets of voice he learned were inflected with collegial regard for his gifted midwife, sister superior of a mother. Then well, whoops-a, boy oh boy, as the breach oozed him from the narrow within time's arrow, the cosmic opposite event horizon. His 1 degree of freedom, scratch that, half that, opened into other and other and other. As light and noise crammed in on him, lit up his senses with blistering hazards. He could blink, but he couldn't cup his ears. The funk of post-war high life soaked him through, his eyes dancing up strobe and disco ball. With that last flashbang of mystery, he awoke to the sense of hands needing him for commerce, to cough up that foretold down payment, spent wet medium of his lungs in exchange for fresh purchase of breath to take within. This was proof they needed that he could deal. Proof enough for them to knock off the slapping, needle drop to the scratch, fingertip down on vinyl, back to two-tone his move-on groove, to set him back on that old school beat, so long in the rocking, set him on her chest, that cello chamber of her voice, tempo down his stress. 45 all nerve and junk jive, now spinning sweet breeze 33 and a third. That's old people reference for you. Under novel influence of her arm hold, eye to eye, first thickly milk to thirsty mouth. Narrow enough in the choking was the road that opened to all new things, but just so, too broad with excess until he once again found the muted magic in every moment. Here's his first story. He forgets, yet he is well. First comfort, always with him, albeit missing. Never missing, sweet mother, always with him. His first comfort shall be the ultimate. He forgets, all is forgotten, all is well. Sweet mother, I no go forget you, for the suffer where you suffer for me. Yeah. Sweet mother, I no go forget you, for the suffer where you suffer for me. One way that I knew I was among my people these past few days, there was a lot of singing. There was a lot of singing, and yeah, hey, and as far as I'm concerned, singing and music should never be too far apart. I mean, sorry, singing, music and poetry should never be too far apart. Did I drop? Oh, no, here we go. Losing stuff. All right, bring down the mood a bit. This poem is for anyone who's ever had to spend time in a school district, or a school building, I should say. Fire drill. The PA rasps the special drill signal. Children trade glances and go to assigned corners, huddling timpani beats, wishing it were the old fire drill. You don't actually see fire in that fire drill. The norm is slide-pulled shoelace in the fire drill. The norm giggles behind grins, digs at neighbor ribs. This new norm is new measure. A Moore clock dripping chill. Ms. Mallard takes down the safe box, unsprings its lock to lift out all Spartan angles, the heavy Glock, avoiding sight lines of 44 dilated eyes. None so much as whisper as Ms. Mallard's slight hands shaking, though she knew today's schedule. Though she knew today's schedule, take measure to turn the muzzle upwards with care. She stalk steps with soggy knees to the door and its window square, her eyes scanning as best she can down the hallway. How does she assess a likely gunman's progress? The silent shiver under a second signal on the PA, back in the safe box with the pistol. A swell through air of breath catching up in young lungs. Back they go, fidgeting and static, cracked to spark. Ms. Mallard, breast parachuting, one hand clutching her desk's edge, resumes the lesson on long vowels. All right, well, we can't keep the mood somber too long. So, Alan asked me to freestyle because I do love to freestyle. We'll see. Right? We'll see how I can freestyle after 3 days with these lunatics. Hey! So, one of the things we noticed was as soon as we started to talk about poetry, and it's a beat, and it goes like this, and the words go like that, and the feelings go like this, and the acorn goes drop on the ceiling. And we had the feeling that somebody, some giant was going tap, tap on top of us and saying, hey, y'all in there, you think you're cool. Well, you might be a fool when I am done looking in at your poet school and showing you that I rule up here in the sky. And oh my, y'all about to get all these acorns all down, and I'm going to distract you and go tap, tap, tap on your shoulder until you roll over and say, stop, make it stop. I came for poetry, not to go crazy. And the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the cabin roof. And the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the cabin roof while I'm talking to Haley, and we're trying to be serious and get that idea out of her poem and say, let's grow on these words that want to be castles, and say, let's be faster. We want to be the master of this passion that you're trying to put into line by line until fine. We heard, uh-oh, it's coming again. The sign of the one above us saying, hey, drop, 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 as the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the cabin roof. And oh dear, I just want to talk to Chelsea about how to tumble healthily and how to go stealthily through the lines of a word until there's nothing better that you've heard, and we can bring it over here to you, our dear audience, and give some magnificence to the idea that we all love of poetry. But while we're talking and saying, you know, I see drop, drop, and the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof. And I'm like, but Katie, listen very closely. When you have a metaphor, you've got to have a 7 and a 4, and don't worry about the numbers. That was a trick question because the impression you want to give is how to get to the next lesson. No, it's not about lessons. It's about performance. It's about endurance. It's about how much you can push your desire to communicate and demonstrate to the world that drop as the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof. Seriously. Okay, let me just talk to Esther, because one of the best there is in expressing that quiet eloquence and trying to tone down magnificence and say, if you listen carefully, you'll hear all there is to know and you'll see all there is to see. And here are the words that I can present to you on a tray so that someday you may imitate them until we heard drop, drop, and the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof. Ah, come on. Okay, well, though you're my bestie and my enemy and my enemy and my bestie, we want to be talking truly, seriously about poetry with Gerald sitting there and telling us he is the herald of what's right and what's wrong in the word, in the song, and how can we all get along because the world needs that, in fact. But just when we were getting there, drop, 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 and the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof, and autumn. Oh, your name is exactly what we're living, right? I mean, what we're giving, right? We're out here in the wood, and it is understood that the reed and the red and the red and the green and the gold around us is what's sold, and what we're found is the words that are hidden underneath in the sticks, in the ants, and maybe the spiders as well, but don't mind them, because we want to tell the better thing until it goes drop, 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 because the squirrels drop Skittles like, the acorns like Skittles. They get me for that. Oh, okay, but come on. But at least Taya, we'll have a moment with Taya to explain how we're going to make a way to express all that she has bottled inside with such pride and such elegance and eloquence. And once again, just before we could build to the crescendo of the poem, and when drop, 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 because the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof. Okay, Abby, shut up, squirrels. Okay, Abby, let's make this happen, shall we? The one hand, one man, band in command of all the songs in her command, saying, here we go, we're going grand, not just Freebird, we got our new word that's full of poetry just for you and me, and let's do drop, 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 and the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof, and okay, Anna, all the way from Michigan, way up, UPA, all the way from the Mackinac Bridge, you're coming down, opening the fridge for food so that you can be full for the poetry that you're gonna pour all over me, and just tell me what's going on in this world that we have to keep preserved, and tell me more because, oh, drop, 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 because the squirrels drop acorns like Skittles on the roof. One last, Lily. Maybe I can get through my conversation with Lily. Can I get through my conversation with Lily? Okay, believe me, Lily, these words of yours are getting through. They are black and blue with the impact they're making on our hearts and our breasts and our brains and the way that we're taking in refrains of everything that you have to say so beautifully. So all you have to do now is drop, 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 because the sparrows drop acorns like Skittles on the roof. I don't know, there's sparrows, there are squirrels, and there's, I don't know what they are. So, okay, I survived that, I think. Meanwhile, the microphone's running away from me. Okay, so I'm gonna bring it home with Blue Moon, Blue River. So I will mention, it's relevant here, that, well, it's already been mentioned. I'm here from Colorado, and that's how I met Colorado. That's how I met Rosemary. The Blue River is in Breckenridge, Colorado. It's one of the mountain rivers that flow into the Colorado River. Blue is the river that ferries the moon. Blue is the moon on rush of the river. This is the high time, rarefied grace, under the full swan wings of glacier. This is high tide as stories are told. When glaciers seem full as seas on the moon, the world is changing. Go back to the stories of swan wing glaciers at the height of June. When the world feels mad, it offers you magic. Deep magic through stories from an age ago. The swans spread flight of the 10-mile range over moon on the blue river in flow. The world is changing. We are the agents gone mad in heat of high noon. Old stories, old magic, return for a moment. Blue is the river, blue is the moon. But that blue, that water is disappearing slowly because out in Denver, where I live, everything that happens here under Rocky Mountain air, from the silo to the street, must be measured in acre feet, must be measured in megaliters. It makes us all water seekers. Not just speaking of the scientists who tidal these ethers. From rainfall to the ocean, these magic waters in motion, do they get what they deserve? The necessary devotion, talking Colorado water. I'm talking Colorado water. I'm talking Colorado water. I'm talking Colorado water, we're coughing because the coffin calls. 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 Straight down the reservoir. And the river rolls the Colorado through Utah and through Nevada and through Arizona. Lake Mead, Lake Powell, Wham Bam, thank you ma'am, Hoover Dam, because Phoenix didn't turn the spigot off, because Las Vegas didn't turn the spigot off. And then it gets to California. Let me tell you, California does not half-step. Here's how it goes. A man created a plan. Mulholland had a plan. The plan created Los Angeles. The city on the Strand had its canal evangelist. Tried to take the Colorado, but he couldn't beg or borrow, so he drained the Owens Valley. No rain in Southern Cali. It never rains in Southern California. It never rains in Southern California. Why? We wasted Colorado water. We wasted Colorado water. We wasted Colorado water. We wasted Colorado water. We're coughing because the coughing calls. Colorado water, we're coughing because the coughing calls. Colorado water, we're coughing because the coughing calls. Colorado water, we're coughing because the coughing calls. Straight down the waterfalls. Yeah, and you don't stop. This is how a river dries up drop by drop, as if we were working out here with a mop. Ease on the brakes, down with the throttle. Here's where the water goes, bottle by bottle, unless we learn to preserve as the earth deserves. Right, Anna? Peace, y'all.
We're gonna switch gears real far down. Cat, mat, fat, hat, tree, I'm not a rhyming poet. I do it all the time, and I know it. John D. Lee is my name. I'm going to read you 2 poems. That's it. But I only write long poems. So they're both about 7-8 minutes long. It's not going to be the 50-page one. No. It'll take 2.5 hours. No. The rest of the people don't have the time. I'm going to start by reading you one section out of Indesiderata. This is my latest book. It came out a couple of years ago from JCAR Press. Available in that, just $17. It's a long poem in 7 sections. I'm going to read you one of the sections, section 3 specifically, and then I'll follow that with a brand new poem that I'll tell you about in just a minute. Before I ever get to that, I do want to say, you guys are amazing. Never stop being amazing.
You stop being amazing.
I will stop being amazing. Also, thank you, Melissa and Tim, for the lovely use of your bed and shower. Much appreciated. I like not being stinky and being awake. Section 3 of Indesiderata. The only thing you really need to know about this is that number 1, it's dedicated to my children, Joshua and Juliet. That's who the you is that I'll mention several times throughout here. And that number 2, this is a book that weaves together several different themes, some of them nature, some of them family history, some of them environment, etc. Kind of here, hopefully where some of those breaks are in this section. Number 3, Indesiderata. When falcons mate, they climb almost as high as the air will allow, then loosen their wings and fall. They feel each other's bodies while the wind shoves its wedge and tears at feathers and eyes, while the atmosphere thickens and the world tumble rushes below, while everything visible whirls like drain water heart blood and plunges and swirls at the eye water wing beat, while needlepoint treetops resolve into leaves and swaths of gray silver resolve into rocks and white specks on blue span resolve into waves, and only when the red-black insides of their bodies release do they open their wings. I hope I'm I hope I'm making sense. The problem is I don't know you yet. Or maybe that's what I tell myself. Maybe what you need to know is everything I have to say. Or maybe that reveals too much of me. It could be my words are wrong. Perhaps the problem is the words themselves, the way they slide like deep water oil slick on the sea. Rainwater builds on a leaf, weighs the stem until a single droplet slides across vein and midrib to edge the petiole and wet a single stoma closed against the heat, and the lips engorge and open. 1,600 meters deep in the Gulf of Mexico, just beyond the Mississippi River Delta, a custom-made cement slab caps the well that caused the largest ever, so far, underwater accidental oil spill. For as close to 90 days as makes no difference, the seafloor bled because we drilled too deep. 200 million gallons spewed and stained the sea in brown-black waves and rode the currents to the shore to coat the rocks and sand and kelp and birds and clams and crabs in sea-sick slurry. 200 million gallons that slid across and through the gills of crabs and shrimp and unnamed fish that soaked their veins in seasick plaque. Not 2 years later, fishermen returned to port in Florida, Mississippi, Mexico, Alabama, with holds of eyeless shrimp and clawless crabs, and fish with tumors chewing at their scales. My father's father fought in World War II, saw the bodies line the Battle of the Bulge, and may have helped to put some there. He must have known the smells of toxic gas, the unwashed bodies, heard the bombers' engines echoed in the muddy groans of not yet corpses. He must have known the klaxon wail, the Luger snick, the Granatwerfer mortar thump, the stomach wrench of silence. But he never talked of these. But we know he knew the child who dream slept in his Texas wife, who would be there living if he made it home. We know that because we kept his letters, ink and sweat and hope on military-issued yellow paper. But there are gaps between his hope, his terror, because the censors opened every letter, cut out words, phrases, left letters like target practice sheets. He made it back, lived another 40 years, just long enough to see his grandson. And in between, he ran a high school, taught the kids back home what it means to be at war. In the end, cancer cut its holes through lung and liver, left behind a shredded leaden soldier. But the dream-slept child he waited for lived on, grew, wed, had a son. The battlefields have healed, of course. Nature threw her skirt across her scars. The grass grew back. The seeds erupted into tree and flower, and the soldier blood that spilled sank into the ground and fed the roots. Omaha and Utah beaches, like any beach, have bikini tourists who lie on laundered towel and mince across the sea-washed rocks. In the Ardennes, the rubble piles were cleared away and used to build the steeples that point the way to Sunday morning prayer. We've concealed our scars so well that those who've seen the damage are dying. But wreckage has a way of rising. So decades later, a woman planting flowers in her garden unearths an unspent hand grenade. Or a city drains a swamp for land and finds the remnants of a tank. And though it doesn't often happen, sometimes what comes crawling back, curled around its splintered bones, is us. All I have that was my father's is a toy, a semi-truck that hauls a dozer on a trailer. Grandpa made it, carved it out of wood, even as the cancer carved his lungs. Dad said Grandpa was so clean that when he finished with a handsaw, you could see the pencil lines on both sides of the cut, like they were guidelines showing how the edges fit. So if you took the toy apart, if you matched up all the lines that matched each other, if you lined the fibers up like zipper teeth and filled in all the hollows, you'd get a plank of wood. You'd see what Grandpa saw before the blade descended. Last poem. There are some small, wait, did they leave? The small children, no, they're in the back. I'm gonna have to use a synonym for the second word in the title, but it rhymes with spit, and you'll figure out what it is. Reading this is a brand new poem out of a new manuscript I'm working on that is more narrative poem, so this will have a totally different feel, hopefully, than the last one I read. And I just found out that this placed as a finalist in Narrative's 15th annual poetry competition. This is the inaugural reading of this one. Never tried this before. Some of these are really long sentences, so. Pig poopy cannon. There's shut it. There's a talent to repetition, a willingness to let the task become again the only point, and the mind funnel down to the whole that must come from within to be real. Like how Brunelleschi would slide off Miss Wood's perfectly sculpted lips in the best Italian she could manage as she drew perspective lines on the chalkboard to show another 5th grade class how the Renaissance mastered the illusion of forcing depth onto a flat plane, orthogonals receding to a single point to either convince the eye of dimension or draw it to the intended interest, as in Da Vinci's The Last Supper, leading inevitably to the face of Christ, centered in illumination below the coffered ceiling and between the apostles, grouped 6 to a side in symmetry. An insight was lost to us as we sat there and longed for the greening fields beyond the school parking lot, as how Jared Stevens' father had been fired a few months ago from the sawmill after getting caught drunk for the 3rd time in 2 weeks to relieve the monotony of forklifting logs to the head saw. And how when Jared arrived home that evening, he'd be told the family was moving to the deserted one-room shack between Nathan Williams' pig farm and the dead animal pit because the bank had repossessed. But still we nodded knowingly when he told us at recess the next day, because we'd all gone there on our bicycles to escape our parents' gaze. And later in high school, after Jared's mom had moved the family away and Mr. Williams had died, we'd return to add our own beer cans to the growing pile that refused to rust by the outhouse. And we knew it because Mr. Williams had expanded a few years ago to a couple thousand head and built a state-of-the-art facility that cost more than our houses so his hogs could stay out of the weather. with feeding troughs the length of the building and slatted floors so waste could fall through would be pumped into collecting lagoons. And in exchange for the land, he promised free fertilizer to every farmer within a mile, and built a system of pipes and industrial sprayers he maintained at his own cost to spread the effluent, which burned the eyes and stank so much that on odd days when the wind blew hard down the canyon and the smell would come the 5 miles into town, the teachers wouldn't allow us outside. But the corn and wheat fields never grew more yield, so mostly everyone was okay with the higher profit margins. Then Jared started coming in with clothes that looked like a pickup had thrown him up in mud. And we knew his family had made the move since some of our fathers came back the same way from the fields. And our mothers complained about having to wash their clothes separate and bleach the machines after, and how even then there was no good way to get the smell out. And if we didn't know what that meant then, we knew it when Miss Wood had to put Jared at his own table next to an open window, and how his face reddened at the attention. But he was still one of us. So we listened after school as he complained the sprayers hit the fields around the shack like black rain that spattered on the leaky tin roof and dribbled in greasy streams that stained the ground and made the horseflies swarm. Worse, how the stink came through the towels they'd used to plug the door gaps and windows and gave them headaches. So on spray days, they'd drive up to bathe and wash clothes in the reservoir. And maybe because we understood just enough, no one mentioned the rumors that his father had left Johnson's liquor store every morning since the sawmill let him off with a case of beer and a bottle of Thunderbird, or how his mother had been asked to wait in their beat-up station wagon while the grocery store filled their orders. And that might have been the slow end to it, in that sigh of a hard task abandoned, and the mind returned to the familiar, except one Sunday, the church doors blew open, and Mrs. Stevens screamed everyone to a stop about how she was going to take the kids and leave unless Frank sobered up and looked for a job. And for a moment, we all felt sorry for him standing under that rain of words, some of which we had only heard through bedroom doors when we should have been sleeping. But then in one of those glimpses that illuminate the past more clearly than any photograph, we saw how many of our parents nodded their agreement. And equally, how many tried hard through clenched jaws not to notice the eyes that burned at them too. And we witnessed our town, not as the whole we'd thought, but a series of fault lines just below the polish and held in place by the loosest of binds. A diesel block ready to crack, but for the hands that changed the oil. And to his credit, Mr. Stevens looked hard at Jared, as if it wasn't much of a choice, and said, "Okay." And they all climbed back in their wagon and headed home. Except the sawmill wouldn't take him back for half pay. And no one in town had a need, despite understanding, so it wasn't 2 weeks before Mr. Stevens knocked on Mr. Williams' door, and the next morning showed up to scrape out feeding troughs and walk every mile of pipe to check for leaks and maintain the same sprayers that slopped his roof. And if any of us knew what ironic meant, we didn't say it. Because even then, A recognition of place had begun to inch our necks as we pulled weeds from our parents' gardens or hauled another load for the firewood box, and we knew that same bone-deep ache for something more that drove men like Mr. Williams to build the biggest hog farm in the county and use his profits to clear a whole hillside for the construction of his mansion. And men like Mr. Stevens to work hard enough on that farm to be pronounced by month's end promoted to overnight maintenance with double pay on condition of continued sobriety. And Jared to sit just a little taller in class after the news spread, as if that ache hadn't fully disappeared, but had at least been reduced to a dull throb somewhere in the deep recesses of the mind. And almost until summer break, with its fiery bursts of peppers and tomatoes and corn, that was all. And life returned to that fractional sense of progress that dragged hours into a sort of order margined by weekend's relief. Then, one morning, Jared's father never came home, and they found the body when it plugged up the pumps. A section of slatted floor had given way overnight, and he and a couple of pigs had fallen into the collection pit, where Sheriff Johnson figured he was fast overcome by fumes and wouldn't let his own men down to fish the body out. So they got it with poles and ropes and held the funeral quickly. And the last time any of us saw Jared was right after, as he had to come to school while his mom packed and sat in the back of Mrs. Wood's class in a dusty ray of window light, with none of us really sure what to say, so we didn't. And Mrs. Wood tried not to call attention and put something like Caravaggio on the overhead to talk about shadows and light, but no matter how we tried, we just stole back again and again to that lone figure sitting at his table and staring out the window into a full afternoon sun that must have been blinding. But he didn't seem to notice.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
Not to make loss beautiful, but to make loss the place where beauty starts, where the heart understands for the first time the nature of its journey. Not to make loss beautiful, but to make loss the place where beauty starts, where the heart understands for the first time the nature of its journey. That's Gregory Orr, and that's a poem that saved my life. I imagine that some people in this room know what that is, to have a poem that's with you at a time when you most need it. I hope every one of you gets a poem or 2 or 10 like that. A poem that makes its way into your life, and right at that moment you need it, it's there for you. I hope every one of you writes that poem for someone else. We write poems for ourselves, but we write them to be in big conversation with the world. And that's what you're doing, and you've started, and you were started before you got here, and now you're more on your way, and thank you. Thank you, friends, for showing up. So we cried a lot, and we laughed a lot. Oh my gosh, and that's what it is, right? Just like that poem I started with said, that the loss itself, not beautiful, but it's the place where beauty starts. And there is this possibility
very paradoxically, to live somehow in the center, to meet what is most difficult and what is most full of joy at the same time. Poetry is the invitation to do that. About a year ago, I was invited to create a new collection of poems, and the publisher, I mean, that's awesome, right? When a publisher calls you and says, we'd like to do your next book. And I said, great, and we talked about it. At that point, it was just a few months after my son, who was almost 17, had chosen to take his own life. And I had been, of course, in a period of great despair. Every poem I was writing was touching on that. And I said to them, I'm not ready to do that book. I don't have enough perspective. But it also felt really disingenuous to create a collection of poems that didn't talk about that. I had lots of poems about falling in love with the world, and I didn't know what to do. And the publisher said, well, maybe you could create a book that does both. And I said, oh, I'll think about it. Which meant, no. I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine that there was going to be a book that would have a poem about Dolly Parton coming into my kitchen and about the night after my son died. How could they possibly be in the same book? Then I had this thing happen, and I always feel like I need to give a little disclaimer. I don't have visions. That's not normal for me, but I'm not going to pretend I didn't. My son and my father, who died just a few months after, came and carved into my bedroom wall all the honey. We love you, in all caps. And I thought, oh my God, they gave me the title for the book, but what does that mean? And I eventually came to understand this, that all the honey that's ever been made is made from two things: the bitterness of the pollen that feeds the workers, and the sweetness of the nectar that fills the honeycomb. And that, I thought, of course we put it all into one collection, because that is what it is to be alive, is to meet all of these things at once. For when people, if you have also had some kind of a tragedy, a trauma, a difficult time, then you know that with the very best intentions, people will come up to you and say, how are you? Are you kidding? For when people ask, I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, I want a word that means devastated and stunned by joy. I want the word that says, I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird singing only one note at a time, more like a Tuvan throat singer able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above it, a sound that the Tuvans say gives the impression of wind swirling among the rocks, and the heart understands swirl. How the churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves, blesses us with paradox, so that we might walk more openly into this world, so rife with devastation, this world, so ripe with joy. Yeah, it's true. There are there's some tough poems in here. Had a possibility to do a prompt together about listening to, or about an empty space. And this one is one of those empty spaces and what they have to offer us. I want to listen to your absence. I want to listen to your absence the way I listen to the night. The way the dark somehow invites a deeper listening. I want to hear, for instance, the way silence fills in where your voice has been, or the way the room seems to know itself by the sound of missing footsteps, and in this way, I find you where I cannot find you. I'm thinking of how the night opens up between the calls of the owl, and how I listen in that interval, not only with my ears, but with my skin. I want to listen for you with my lungs, as if every breath is attentive to the syllables of grief, of love. I want my heart to angle in, to hear what silence has to say. I don't want to hear what I most want to hear. I want to hear what is really here. I want to listen and learn from the listening. I want to listen into your absence and lean into it the way I lean into night. Something so much larger than me, something familiar and always new. Something so present, yet unable to be touched. I want to hear what is true. What if I can't do enough, I said. Love said. What if you don't try? What if I can't do enough, I said. 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 Love said. Love said. What if you don't try? What if you don't try? Thanks, Gal. That was awesome. I don't always know that there's like some people out there who really got it and they're gonna help me out, but I knew tonight that was gonna. I had a good feeling. All right, here she is. You know, I promised that Dolly was gonna make it into this book. She did. Oh, she did. I love Dolly Parton. My God, this woman. What she does, what she has done, and do you know that she has made, in addition to being a poet, for 8 years I was a social worker. I went into people's homes and taught them how to play with their kids. It was such a good job. Dolly Parton gives a book to every child in America, every single child in utero through 5 years old, once a month. All you have to do is sign up. That's what she does. Talk about making a difference. Making breakfast with Dolly. Tonight I read how Dolly Parton always wears high heel shoes in her kitchen. Don't you? She asks. I don't. I wear old brown wool slippers with orthotics. I try to imagine myself strutting into the kitchen before the kids go to school, making their smoothies and scrambled eggs in my yoga pants and my long gray sweatshirt and my 4-inch high lucite stilettos. And click, click, click go my heels as I teeter toward the teacups, and click, click, click as I parade with the paper towels to the place where the cat has retched. Oh, Dolly, as I slip into these high-heel thoughts, I thank you for dressing up the day, these glammed up ideas to step and sashay across the morning chores, and meanwhile my slippered self just marvels at the fun and shrugs because I am just so darn grateful for arch support. For the rubber soles that ground me as I sweep up the crumbs and wipe the counters clean, and grateful that when those high-heel thoughts start to sing, working 9 to 5, well man can they sing, and they invite me to sing along. Deep desert canyon of the heart, remember when you were ocean. Deep desert canyon of the heart. Deep desert I'll close with this one. For the living. And here's a little story that goes into it, I suppose. It's a reason to have poets in your life. On the night my son died, I was walking the streets in Georgia and talking to my friend Wendy Vidalock on the phone. She's a fabulous poet, lives in Colorado on the Western Slope, and she said to me, "He has given you his love light to carry." And when she said that, a firefly lit up in front of my face at that exact moment. He has given you his love light to carry. And I said, "Oh my God, Wendy, you won't believe what happened. I will never forget this." 5 minutes later, "What did you say?" She remembered, and I remember, and I want to tell that to every single person who's lost someone they love, that they have given you their love light to carry. For the living, it is the work of the living to grieve the dead. It is our work to wake each day, to live into the world that is. It is our work to weep, and it is our work to be healed. Some part of us knows not only the absence of our beloveds, but also their presence. How they continue to teach us, how they invite us to grow. It is our work to be softened by loss, to be undone, destroyed, remade. Wounded, we recoil, and it is our work to notice how, like crushed and trampled grass, we spring back. It is our work to meet death again and again and again. And though it aches to be opened, it is our work to be opened. To live into the opening until we know ourselves as blossoms, nourished from within by the radiance of the ones who are no longer here. They have given us their love lights to carry, and it is our work to be in service to that light. All right. My God, friends, you have really made it. That was epic. 2 hours of poetry, and we're going to close with this poem by Rumi. On a day when the wind is perfect, the sail just needs to open, and the world is full of beauty. Today is such a day. On a day when the wind is perfect, the sail just needs to open, and the love starts. Today is such a day. And now, friends, it's your turn. It's the kumbaya moment of the night. We will lead you in responding to the song. So if you would please join us, we'll sing a phrase and please respond. On a day when the wind is perfect. Nice job. The sail just needs to open. The sail just needs to open. And the world is full of beauty. And the world is full of beauty. Today is such a day. Today is such a day. On a day when the wind is perfect. On a day when the wind is perfect. The sail just needs to open. The sail just needs to open. And the love starts. And the love starts. Today is such a day. Today is such a day.
Come get to know them, they're pretty incredible. As you can tell, we've had a pretty incredible retreat this weekend, and thanks for being part of the public performance. And there are books back here if you would be interested in those. Restrooms right around the corner.